Hi, welcome to the Business Adaptation and Continuity Survey initial results analysis provided by Paul Teleki, Member Relations Lead of the Peterborough Chamber of Commerce on March 30th, 2020. Before we get into some of the initial results, the survey has so far yielded a margin of error of 6.27%, which is a fairly significant sample size, with the majority of respondents coming from the city of Peterborough and the remaining from county townships, with the township of Selwyn accounting for 10% of the total respondents. An increase in the county respondents will improve the statistical significance of the survey in regards to the demographic distribution. However, our ability to collect the contact data of respondents has improved our ability to actually connect to particular businesses and communicate with them on the issues that are most prevalent to them. So as we go through the survey and the results, please take note of groups that you wish to reach out to in your respective roles. So the primary sector that has been identified is very well distributed according to the NAICS code. That's the North American Industry Classification System. So all areas of the list that we had put up have been identified. But for this initial results, we're going to be taking the top 6. And in the next video, we'll look at the remaining 6 or 7. As we look at the ability for businesses to adjust their business offerings, we can see that the top 6 sectors that were identified are listed here. I put their full information just beside it so that we get a sense of the full sector that we're dealing with. And then the colors are indicating whether they were able to adjust their business offerings somewhat and no. And this column is the open-ended responses that they provided in relation to their quantitative response. So we can see that the arts, entertainment, and recreation sector was the least likely able to adjust their business offerings, mostly because of their business type. For example, 90% of respondents in this category indicate that they are canceling or closing because they are simply not able to adjust because they are regulated to close. The next least likely sector to be able to adjust is construction. However, some of this group has somewhat organized or adjusted to online sales. And because of restrictions both on physical distancing as well as the suppliers of the construction industry sector, they are not able to get the resources they need because their suppliers are closed. One of the best sectors able to adjust their business offerings was the professional, scientific, and technical services sector, where they have been able to offer virtual offerings, and they just have the flexibility to do that type of virtual offering. And you can see how everyone else has adjusted to this based on how they answered, and then some of their qualitative open-ended responses they provided with their response. The next question asked if they were able to retool their operations. So you can see that construction, all of them said they haven't been able to retool, but they also provided no comments. So this could mean that they simply just aren't able to retool and make essential new products, or that they don't have a need to. It's hard to know based on the fact that they provided no comments. The arts and entertainment and recreation, they had a strong indication that they weren't able to retool because they're forced to close. And the retail trade indicated that there's just no spending happening, and that they need to find diversity in their offerings. And one of the best groups that have been able to retool their operations are the professional, scientific, and technical services, as well as manufacturing. They are the manufacturing indicated that they are actually supporting the different changes that are happening within specific sectors, such as grocery and healthcare. So they are retooling in regards to supporting these different changes in the other sectors. Whereas the professional, scientific, and technical services have been adapting by going live. We asked where these particular sectors are offering their and supplying their services and products. So when you look at this chart, this is the total amount of retail trade respondents, and because they came out on top as the most respondents, they will have the largest bar. The results are set up like this because each sector was able to indicate more than one area in which they are offering. So we can see the retail trade has a strong local supply chain, and that is a natural result. However, you can also see that there is a provincial, national, and international supply chain as a part of their products and services that they provide. You can also see that manufacturing has a fairly equal distribution of their local, provincial, national, or international supply chain. And professional, scientific, technical services has a greater emphasis on their local and provincial. However, you can see that there's a little bit of an increase in their international offerings. And so construction is largely a locally provided service. So the short-term ongoing plan for coping with restrictions, you can see down here are the different ways that they indicated that they can, their plan is for coping with the restrictions and closures. So if we look at retail trade, we can see that laying off workers, negotiating operational costs, and closing doors temporarily is the majority of their way of coping with this. However, you can also see that focusing on client retention is another significant area that they need to focus on. Manufacturing, again, has a fairly equal distribution between all the different ways in which they are coping with the restrictions for closures. Accommodation is very much focusing on laying off workers and closing doors temporarily. And you can see the arts and entertainment sector has a larger indication that they're dealing with it by closing their doors temporarily. This question asked if they had to lay off employees. So you can see that 36 respondents in these sectors had skipped the question, which could mean that they simply haven't laid off any employees, which is about almost 25%, one quarter of the respondents. So the other respondents have indicated that there are layoffs. This is significant, this particular chart, because we can see where some of the critical sectors are in terms of layoffs. So we have 50 to 99 people being laid off in the retail, trade, and accommodation sectors. So this could be a high risk area, um, uh, whereas professional, technical, and scientific services, as well as arts, entertainment, has a higher proportion of less than 5, but this may be an indication that they have less employees. So we can use this as a segmentation tool to reach out to some of our more critical sectors that are facing some higher unemployment issues and communicate directly to them with different options that they have. So this question was about priorities for financial assistance. So we have our color coding relating to the particular issue, so rental payments, staffing, loan servicing, property taxes, making up the majority of issues for the retail trade in terms of their priorities for financial assistance. You can see that there is loan servicing as a more significant issue, as well as staffing. And we can see from the previous survey that although layoffs are happening, some businesses are deciding to continue employing their staff, even though it's cutting into their bottom line. You can also see that in accommodation, there is purchasing new inventory, staffing, property taxes, and rental payments as their priorities for financial assistance, and so on. Again, these are based on the total respondents in this particular sector, which is why retail trade is a larger column than other columns. So what you see is a distribution in the particular sector in relations to priorities for financial assistance. So if they're seeking financial assistance, we asked what their timeline is, and the green signifies less than 14 days, blue 15 to 30 days, and so on. So we can see these groups have a less than 14 days need for seeking financial assistance. So we can use this information to segment communication to these priority sectors or to the individuals themselves. So we can essentially cut out this group and make sure the respective agencies and organizations in our economic development TeamPtbo group can access the people who need this particular financial assistance in this short time frame, and then keep prioritizing based on the groups within the days that they need this financial assistance. I'm bringing in this last chart as a comparison because it's going to lead us to the next initial analysis, which is the other groups that were the final 7 sectors that were identified in the initial sector chart. And so this will give you some insight on the wholesale trade, finance, and insurance, and where their priorities are for seeking financial assistance and their timeline. So you can see healthcare, retail, real estate, and transportation are seeking financial assistance in less than 14 days. So we can include these groups in the next step of segmenting the communication to these particular groups and businesses within these sectors to make sure that they get the information they need in the less than 14 days that they have identified, and then move on to the 15 to 30-day group. So this is a very initial. Please send your requests. There will be more analysis as we go through. We can definitely push for more county respondents, especially in Havelock and Asphodel Norwood. So I hope everyone is staying safe and feeling great, and let's keep moving forward. Great job, everyone.